Now introducing the Minor Wisdom Trio!
Minor Wisdom!
I had a fun chat this week. Newsflash, it was actually a few weeks ago. But anyway, I had a fun chat with Allison Sweet. Shall I say it was pretty wicked. Yeah, that's right. It was pretty wicked. So, fun chat with Allison Sweet. I don't know Allison Sweet. The reason I do, there's that abrupt stop. Yeah, I think I'm just going to make it a thing now. Anyway, the reason I do this podcast is so that I can get to know people like Allison. And like I say every week, I don't care if you enjoy it. I had a great time, and that's all that really matters, selfishly. So, I've got a few things to talk about this week. They're not all positive, but I'll do my best. I am opening, this is a positive. I'm doing The Little Mermaid at Klein Oak High School, and that is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with the process thus far. It's actually, if anything, it's gone like amazingly well. I think the only thing negative is the stage is 120 feet wide. It's like the size of a football field. That, again, good problem to have, I guess, if you know how to manage it, and so far so good. But that's like the only negative. The kids at this school are amazing. There's a team of lighting kids that I wish I have had at every school I've ever had. I only have like two ever. And I don't know why, but this school, I don't know what's in the water at this school, but they seem to have a bunch of kids that just want to do lighting. And no offense to Darren, who's over there. Darren's an amazing designer and a great builder, but he's admittingly not a lighting person. And so, but they have the kids that want to learn this stuff, the sponges, if you will. So I've had a heck of a good time as I record this, as I do with most. It's Friday night. Tomorrow I will be up there all day. So by the time this drops, I will have been there all day and having a blast. Probably the day will go by rather quickly. They're doing The Little Mermaid. Not a huge fan of that show. Not the version they're doing. Just the show itself. It's one of those tough ones because, and I've had this conversation with Stephen Bogard, who works with me at Cooper, about how there's kind of an elephant in the room while you're watching the show, and that is that they're never underwater. And there are times in the show when we're looking at people that are supposed to be underwater and people that are above water on land, whatever. And that's weird in the show. So I don't know I've never seen the SpongeBob show, but I'm assuming it's a little bit similar. I honestly have no idea. I know nothing about SpongeBob other than it looks like a heck of a fun show to do because a lot of people are doing it and posting it and all that stuff. It is musical season, and it's fun to see all the musicals that are on stage. It's really cool. It's really fun. I don't have much to say about that. That's about all I got. I will say, I'm working in Klein, and again, this has nothing to do with Klein. Klein's been amazing, the district, to me. But I'm also, and I'm not going to name the district because I'm about to turn into negative Nancy. Sorry, Nancy. But not every district's easy to work with. And there's a district that shall again remain nameless. It is in the state of Texas. It is not in the Houston area. So, but again, I'm not going to name it. And it sucks. The district sucks. It's not a good district. They're the people that I know that work in that district are having a hard time. The people that I know that have worked in the district have left for good reason. And this district has about 20 pieces of paper to fill out if you want to be at any like sort of consultant or anything like that. In this case, I'm working for the district. Again, not going to say in what capacity, but I'm going to be at a school in this district for one day. And still, there are lots of districts that if you're just coming in for a day to do something, sure, you may have to do a criminal history background check. but they raptor you. They put your little ID in the little machine and it spits out a sticky badge and you put it on your chest and you go about your business for a couple hours and then you go home. Well, this district, I've had to fill out, I kid you not, about 20 pieces of paper, and that is fine. So I will say this, for Klein, you have to fill out quite a bit, but it's all in one packet. And then, and it's kind of like buying a house, which I've done now 3 times, or a car. All those pieces of paper are not all meant for one person. They all go to different areas in the country, the government, your real estate agent, a broker, all different things. But one person has you sign all these things, and then it is their job to disseminate the papers to whoever, right? Well, in this district that I'm speaking of, no, that's not the case. They send you a bunch of different papers that on the paper itself, it says, please send this paper to this company or send this paper to this place. But it's not clear. It's frustrating. And I wish there was a process for people like me who want to eventually just be consultants, people like Chuck, who's out there now doing his thing, people like potentially other technicians that shall remain nameless as well. And I wish there was a process, the universal process. It is easier to apply for college than it is to work on a campus for one day in a school district. And it's ridiculous. It's stupid. I'm bitching. I'm moaning. Okay, I'm done. That's really all I wanted to complain about, but that's it. Again, T-Tech has wrapped. We are going to be having a postmortem. We've already started a list of people that we want to have next year. Like we got really motivated to make the best T-Tech that we could possibly make for you guys. And so we're already getting the ball rolling on next year. Again, this will drop after the fact, but I know that TXETA had their thing in Midland, their roundup, their one-day roundup. Hope that went well. Hope everybody that was involved with that had some success. And, there's this crazy idea that there's a rivalry between different brands of theater professional development for educators. And really, there shouldn't be. If there is, I'm not privy to it since I'm a part of both organizations. But I will say this, who cares? Just go get professional development and get trained. And there's never too much. Too much? There is too much. There's never too much training for a teacher. You can't ever learn too much or be told too much because it is your own, decision to take things away from what you're told and from what you experience. You don't have to take everything away from stuff. I've been teaching this Shakespeare class, and although it's all seniors and they're starting to really hit that senioritis hard, I make them every day give me a quote, a Shakespearean quote about how they feel at that moment. And it's been amazing to hear that stuff. A lot of them are about being sleepy or hungry. But every once in a while, I get a really good quote about, life is what you make of it. It's your decision. It's your brain. It's bad things only exist if you feel bad or, things like that. I'm not Shakespeare obviously for good reason. But it has really made me aware of just how many Shakespeare quotes there are that talk about, like, just suck it up, buttercup. The decisions that affect you and make you feel a certain way are your decisions. It's you making up that idea that things are so negative. Speaking of not negative and very positive, this week with Allison Sweet, it is a really fun interview. I don't know a lot of people that know Allison, but I can't wait for all of you to hear Allison Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, also wait for that little tech tip. Got a good one this week, I think. I don't know. It's good to me. Whatever. It's my podcast. I'll do what I want. Friend me on Facebook. Do all that things. Rate this podcast. I would love to see some new ratings pop up. Even if you're not used to that stuff, rate it. Okay. Have a great week, peeps.
My journey started a little later. I grew up a dancer. I come from a farming family. of generations. So I'm like a third generation shallow water alum, which is unusual. And so, yes, I grew up in a dancing background. My mom was a dancer. My brother is an artist, and I wanted to be as cool as him and as creative as him. But obviously I couldn't paint or draw, but I wanted to kind of explore that creative avenue, but I just didn't know how. So dance was kind of my creative outlet for a long time. And then my junior year of high school, I took my arts credit, and lo and behold, I ended up in Cindy Couch's Theater One class. And we started reading a play as a class, and we were going to do it as a production. And I can't remember if she had reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be in one act, or I bugged her to be in one act. I can't figure out which. But anyways, that next semester, I began one act my junior year, and I auditioned for The American Clock. It was the 2012 season, Arthur Miller. And oh my gosh, it just hit me. My first ever play was an Arthur Miller. That's amazing.
Wow.
Man.
Just, yeah, making
Um,
strides going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep going.
yes, just another kudos to Cindy Couch. So anyways, I was a small role, an ensemble role, and um I just fell in love with it ever since. Dancing was I loved it, but it didn't give me that full expression that I think I was really wanting. And in fact, there was one time after a dance recital, my mom had come up to me and she said, "Allison, your facial expressions, you've got to calm them down. They're way too big. You've like tone it down, sister." I remember thinking, "Well, why? I'm telling a story through my movement and through my." And so I think from the beginning I was just there was just a yearning for more. And theater really, really did it for me. So anyways, junior and senior year, I was in one act. I loved it. I loved every second. I loved being a part of a team and working together. And Cindy was an extremely collaborative director. So, she trained not just actors, she trained, I mean, you didn't just have a part in the show. You also were a designer, and you got input on the set and the costumes. And she just created a beautifully collaborative environment that I think really, really impacted me as a director and as an artist. Um, so when my senior year, when I was looking to graduate, thinking about what I wanted to do, I started looking at colleges, deciding, do I want to do dance? Do I want to do theater? And I went and interviewed at West Texas A&M University, and that is the best decision ever I've ever made. Um, and so I remember first visiting with Stephen Crandall, and we sat and talked. He took an hour out of his day to sit and talk with a senior high school student that may or may not end up at WT. And I think that meant a lot to me. And I just kind of knew that um, looking forward, that relationship would continue like that they truly cared about their students. And so I came back and auditioned. They saw potential, and that's all they saw. I would not say that I was the most talented actress to begin with, just because I started so late. I loved what I did, but I can't tell you how many times Cindy would give me a note and a critique to project. Be louder, Allison. You're too quiet. Be louder, be louder, be louder, over and over and over again. So anyways, I will say that they saw potential. And I ended up at West Texas A&M University. Again, best decision ever. So I studied under Royal Brantley and Stephen Crandall. And again, I use those names because the culture at WT was you worked one-on-one with those professors. The student to professor ratio was small. And so you just develop these relationships with these experts and you grew a lot because of that. And I really, really loved that. And because the student population was a little bit smaller, your chances of being in shows was greater. And at WT, I was in those golden years of amazing theater at WT. I think they are a hidden gem in Texas. Um, solid, solid theater there. But anyway, so I did my 4 years at WT. I graduated, and I could say my life took a little bit of a turn. My senior year, again, I was put in a position to begin thinking, what am I going to do after this? And I was, keeping an eye on my friends who had already graduated and moved to cities, Dallas, Chicago, LA, New York. And it didn't seem like they were having that much fun and they couldn't find work. And I looked at myself and I'm like, I didn't even major in musical theater. I mean, I just got a theater performance degree. And so I guess you could say I kind of had an existential crisis in that I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. And if I do end up in a city, I'm going to be miserable. Um, and I'm just going to lose my love of theater. And so um, I think out of fear, I decided, no, I'm going to go a different way, which was sad, but I don't regret it in the end because here we are back again doing theater, doing what I love. But yeah, so I started um at a caregiving company. I love the elderly. I started as a caregiver for an elderly lady for like 2 years. And I loved that, but there wasn't really that deep sense of purpose and fulfillment that I was looking for. And my family owns a agritourism business. So if you've ever been to like a cornfield maze with a pumpkin patch in the fall, um, they'd been doing that for, well, I guess 23 years. And so I thought maybe, I would go back and, help with the business. And so I began my degree in um, master's in business, and I was mid degree when Cindy Couch had her retirement party at our farm, and I got to go up and just give her the biggest hug. They had just won state. I mean, it was an incredible atmosphere to be in. And her students were there, her previous students were there, family, friends, everyone was there. And I just got to be and like sit in that energy. Gave her a hug, and I had just asked her about, you know, how the interview process for the new theater director had been going. And she said, Allison, you have to apply. She said, please apply. I think you would be a great fit. And it's funny, you would think a normal human being would go, okay, well, let me think about it. I'm mid degree, I'm kind of going on this path. But I think for about a year, I just was aching for theater again. Gosh, I had to get back in it somehow. And I was looking, for a way. And this to me was like that open door, you know? And I think I maybe thought, mm, I went back and forth maybe 10 minutes thinking, okay, should I, shouldn't I? And then I said, oh, yeah, I've got to try. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be crazy and just do it. I did not have my certification. I didn't have any of it, but I went ahead and applied and miraculously got the position. And the rest is history. This is my second year here, and I am truly living the dream. Truly living the dream. And joke's on me, I swore I would never be a high school theater director, let alone come back to Shallow Water
Right.
and be a high school theater director. And now I know this is like a dream come true. So it's funny how life works out like that. Your perspectives change so much, and your definition of success changes so much. And so, anyways, yeah, this is the dream.
That's cool. That's like just your full circle kind of thing. So
Yes.
I first of all, I've got to touch on the family business thing, but I'll wait to do that because that's well, I'll explain a little bit. But so
Okay.
you stopped. It was an were you going for an MBA? Is that what you were?
Yes.
Okay. Did you?
Yes.
How many hours did you complete, or how many credits did you?
I think I was like 6 months in.
Okay, so 12.
Actually, I was already a semester in. I had
Okay.
done 1 semester already, and I was just starting my 2nd
Okay.
semester.
So not very deep
So
into it.
not
Okay, okay.
no. No, no.
I was gonna say because I found out I won't get in too into the weeds on this one because I don't want to anger anybody. But I'm currently in a second master's program because the first master's program I completed, but it was an ME, and I've always wanted to teach college, and I've always wanted to teach theater kids,
Mhm.
theater students. And so I was told, well, you got to have an MA or an MFA, right? And in order to teach theater. But what I didn't realize until this past semester is that I want to teach theater educators, and most theater education programs are actually MEs. In a lot of places, or you need an ME, shall I say? You don't necessarily graduate with one, but to teach it, you typically need an ME to do it. And so I'm in this program now, and I'm thinking, well, shoot, I've got what I need.
I've already got that.
And so, but the reason I bring all that up is because somebody said, I think you have to have like 18 hours or 18 credits in order to be able to teach something. You don't need the full degree. So that's why I asked you, is because you could
Yeah.
potentially be certified, quote unquote, to do the business side, but not have the MBA. So.
Right, right.
Do you think that that's something like in the future that would you go now? I feel like you're going to go back to get a master's in not business, but maybe education or in theater.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looks like
Yeah, that
the
is
struggle in your
definitely on the
eyes.
table. I love school. I love school. I thrive in that environment. So definitely a possibility, an option.
Yeah,
I don't know when. I don't think maybe within the next couple of years for sure. I really want to stay where I'm at, but
right,
and some people do both at the
right,
same time. I would pull my hair out.
right,
I don't think I could do that. I think I would want to focus on getting my master's and then come back to teaching.
right.
But yeah, definitely.
Were you like dance team dancer, or were you like, yeah, you were like like stage dancer kind of thing, like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it was gosh, I don't know all the terminology. I wasn't a competitor.
right,
It was one of those I would go to a dance studio and you would learn, certain routines and then you would do a recital.
okay,
So it was very low key.
yeah. You weren't like drill team.
No, no.
Okay. Okay.
No, my favorite was tap. I
Okay.
loved tap.
Can you still tap?
But once you learn how to tap, it's really hard to unlearn it. It's
Okay.
funny. It's like, yeah,
I've
you
never heard
you
that
can't
before.
unlearn tap. You can unlearn all the technique with jazz and stuff, but once your like ankles and your feet are acclimated to it, you can always do it. So the
Interesting.
stamina part, probably not,
Right.
but I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, you can't unlearn tap.
So does that open up a different type of show that you would musical or things like that? Like because you know that you can do it and potentially teach it, does that open up your kind of library of potential productions, or does that not really have an effect?
I think so. I think in future years, a musical should definitely be on the table. I couldn't do it by
Right.
myself. I'd have to get the choir director, and there actually is a dance teacher here at Shallow Water now, that I would probably bring on board. And but when it comes to my shows, movement, I have found, this is our one act is going to be my fourth, fifth directed show.
Okay.
Um, and already I'm finding that, one of my strengths is movement.
Right.
And so, like last year, we did Defying Gravity and we incorporated movement into it. And some of the girls that I had were cheerleaders and dancers, and we did stunts and all that cool stuff. And so, yeah, I definitely like to play to my strengths and in
Right.
utilizing that movement for sure. But yeah, in future years, having a musical production, incorporating tap dance back. Oh my gosh, yes. I would love to do that.
Yeah, because like some of the more popular ones right now, like Shrek and things like that, are they have some good tap numbers. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah. I just did White Christmas, and it has a big tap number too. But
Yes,
yeah,
that
yeah,
would be
yeah.
so fun to do.
Yeah, I didn't tap. I didn't teach them or take part. I just lit it. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed the sounds of the tap shoes. So I gotta ask about this family business thing. So I mean,
Yeah.
you quickly ran over it, and some people, like my father-in-law was a train engineer, or not a train engineer, train conductor, the guy that wore the blue and white stripe and the things that, you as a kid, you grow up and you
Yes.
you wear that hat and you're like, I want to be a train engineer one day. And
He was that.
he was that. So there's like when I met my wife and she was talking to me about what her dad used to do and what he retired and as and all this kind of stuff. She just quickly glossed over it. I was like, no, 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 go back to this. That's like really cool. For an 8-year-old boy to be like, wait, those people actually exist. Um, so you said your family. What was the like specific the actual term for it?
The technical term is called agritourism. So
Agriculture.
agriculture and tourism meshed together.
So and you said like the corn mazes.
Yes.
That's
Have you ever been to a corn maze before?
so yes. And it was one of the few times in my life where I thought I would not live to see the next day. because because I thought I was like I guess if it was a certain time of day, I feel like those mazes are easier in the early morning or in the late afternoon because the
Yes.
sun is literally helping you. But if you do it at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the daytime and the sun is over you and you have no point of reference, it's you're like, well, I don't know where I am at, and
Yes.
so obviously I lived through it. But I didn't realize like that was a business. I know that those things
Yes.
exist and people own those things, but I have a former student that owns a bunch of escape rooms. That's what his family business is, and he's going into that business. So like it's just a thing that these things exist.
I know, it's such an interesting niche.
Yeah.
My dad was a cotton farmer,
Okay.
and farming is an act of faith.
Right.
You don't know if you're going to, I mean, there's so much that is out of your control when it comes to farming. And there were several years in a row where the crop was just not good. And so my parents were looking for ways to supplement their income. And they saw this idea in a magazine, this corn maze business. And so we started off the first year just a corn maze and a concession stand that also sold tickets. Oh, and we had the hayride with pumpkins,
Yeah.
but it was dirt and that and nothing else. And every year it just grew and grew, and now that's their main
Wow.
income. So yeah, they love it. They love it. I think this is their 23rd or 24th year
Wow.
doing
Is
it.
it
But
seasonal?
it is,
Okay.
yeah. So they're open from the second week of September to the first week of November.
Okay.
So just a real short amount of time. And they get hit hard and fast, and then they recuperate until the next year.
Yeah. Do they like incorporate like during this time of year? Do they incorporate like holiday hay rides, or like is there another element to it as the year goes on, or
We've definitely thought about that. But no,
okay?
not yet. I think that there are always other opportunities for that, but
Do you do like a
as of right now,
spooky?
we just don't.
Do you do like a
Huh?
haunted corn maze, or I feel like
No.
you could get your students involved.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm just
So my family, especially my mom, hates anything
she
scary.
doesn't have to go in it.
She can't even pronounce horror right. She says horror.
Okay.
I hate Allison, I hate everything horror. I just can't stand the horror stuff. And I'm like, okay, that was way too southern. She doesn't actually speak like that. But
Yeah.
horror, she can't stand anything horror. So it's very family friendly.
Right.
Um, is what they call it. But yeah, they've actually tried a couple of years way back in the beginning to do something like a haunted maze.
Yeah.
But it just attracts the wrong crowd. It
Yes.
really does.
I get that.
So anyways,
This week's tech tip is not really a tip so much as just kind of a new way of speaking nowadays. You know, plugs are called male and female ends, but we've sort of slowly gone away from that. Even though it's not necessarily derogatory, it's just awkward to teach your students like, hey, this is a male and this is a female end, and here's why. So if you go with the socket and the plug, that might be something that is less giggly, male and female, and easier for some of the students to digest why we call it male and female. So socket and plug are two now commonly used things, even though not everything is a socket. It's just a cleaner, more anatomically, no, not anatomically correct. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the interview with Allison Sweet. You two things with that horror thing. First of all, I loved your mom and Steel Magnolias. Um, second of all, I'm Jewish, and so horror to us is a dance. So you know, anyway, that's what's funny about that. So when we say horror, but I also think about, as a theater person, the word horror on stage, just like the word ship. You know, you tell your students like, no, we have to really enunciate these words because they
yes.
could come across as something else, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
We actually had that issue last year in Defying Gravity
yeah,
because ship
yeah.
was used a lot. And yeah, there were there were many a time that it did not sound like ship.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. You have to really, if you're gonna hit any letter in that word, it's got to be the P. Um,
Ain't that the truth?
so I thought of something you mentioned about how you came out of college and went into working for elderly people. I think you said old, but I'm going to say elderly. Uh, but I too have kind of a soft place in my heart for helping the elderly. Uh, but you said something, and it reminded me of something that I heard a long time ago, that sometimes you have to walk towards the fire to know that you have to turn around. And so that's kind of what that means is, you know, sometimes you have to go try something before you realize I got to go the other direction. And not to say that what you were doing was wrong or you wouldn't continue. It just wasn't where your passion was. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And all the lessons you learn along the way too.
yeah,
And that, from a day-to-day basis, I look back and I think, oh wow, I learned this skill
hmm
in this job. And so it's amazing that, even though I feel like that might have been a little bit of a um diversion,
hmm
that I'm still able to look back and be really grateful I did it because I'm able to still utilize those skills
yeah.
in teaching. So
Are
yeah, I
there
love that.
Are there things that you, and you may not have put much thought to this yet, but are there elements to what you have done thus far that you can attribute to Cindy?
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably a lot, but yeah. Is there
Yeah.
anything you can
Um,
pinpoint?
I think foundationally, like first and foremost, it would be that collaborative um atmosphere.
Hmm.
You know, there are a lot of different types of directors, and we've all been exposed to the worst and the best. Um, Luckily, I mean, really, I don't think I've ever had a bad director, in that they all had different styles. And Cindy's style was very, very you need to take charge of this show. You need to take ownership of this show. And it wasn't just, I mean, her shows had a lot to do with culture and history. And so it was a history lesson.
Yeah.
And we didn't just learn it, we lived it. And so she would bring in people um, to speak. She would have us, you know, she would put me in charge of something. Like I remember my first year, she had me choreograph a tap dance. Um, and so she gives you jobs to do. So I just loved her collaborative spirit
Right.
in that. And we keep that culture, we keep that tradition here at Shallow Water for sure. She trained those kids already. I don't think I could untrain them to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. In smaller schools, you know, I'm a one man show. I do middle school one act, I do high school one act, and I've got to have um, students help me with stuff. And I think they take more ownership for sure. So that would be my my best answer for that is that she really, really teaches a spirit of collaboration in theater, which is how it should be.
What is your schedule? You just mentioned the middle school thing. I didn't know that you also did middle school. So do you have a
Yeah.
you travel?
So for middle school, we compete in the fall. So we start the audition process in August, and then go until November.
Okay.
And then our competition is usually the first or second week of November. And then we turn around and audition for, well, we take about a month and then we audition for high school one act and then begin that process. But for middle school this year, well, and for the past 20 something years, it's always been at Shallow Water. So we haven't had to travel
Okay.
with middle school.
That's kind of
But
convenient. Do you teach?
so convenient.
Are you
Oh
teaching at
my
the middle school
gosh.
as well? Or you like are you doing classes
Yes.
there too?
Yeah, so in
Okay.
the morning I have 2 middle school classes, and then in the afternoon I have theater 1 classes and, theater production.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, and then I also have, a special education class,
Oh, okay.
which is so fulfilling, it's so fun. Yeah, so 3 girls come in and, you know, they learn
Yeah.
theater just like everybody else, and it's probably more beneficial to them than anyone.
Right.
Because they're learning, you know, speaking skills, social emotional learning skills. And so, anyways, yeah.
That's
And Cindy started that some years ago. So that is another thing that, you know, it's really important that that carries on.
right. That is important. Yeah, we have something coming in at T Tech this year, in the middle of January. This will probably air after that, but um, we have a Kirsty Lewis who runs an organization I think out of Atlanta, and they talk about the inclusion element of classrooms and things like that, and how to not let it deter you, but accept it and own it and
Mhm.
make it a part of your program. So good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you, before we started recording, this isn't about me, but maybe it'll turn into something about you. But
Yeah,
you,
I've got to know.
yeah, you asked me what's behind me. So it doesn't look as objects in mirror are further away than they appear, is what I think is going on here. But so I've got obviously the just the screen. I have two daughters, a wife, a female dog, a female hamster. So there's a lot of estrogen happening in my house. So I was given permission to create a man cave when we moved to this house.
Yes.
Now it may turn into my mother-in-law's room in the future, whatever. I digress. More estrogen on the way. But this man cave has a screen in it that I usually watch wrestling, like WWE, like, Sunday, 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 that crap. And
Yes.
then these are all wrestling figures, or as my oldest daughter
Oh.
says, her college fund being thrown away. So I have more than I really should as a 40-year-old man. That I don't know if it'll ever amount to anything, but I would like to think they are. My grandfather collected Yadro, like the porcelain, like I think he was French, Italian, maybe I don't remember, but Spanish. He was Spanish. Hello, but and those are like porcelain pieces that ended up like costing us money rather than getting us money, which is what he thought it would be. Um, and so anyway, yeah, those are my those are my wrestling toys. But
That is too cool.
so,
My husband, um, he loves collecting.
yeah.
And his thing, oh my gosh, if he listens to this podcast, he's gonna kill me. He collects magic cards.
Oh
He
yeah.
is so good at it. Like he can put together a deck and he tries to explain it to me, and I'm just nodding along blankly, like,
Uh-huh.
sure, babe. But anyways, he says the same thing. Babe, one day these are
Yeah.
gonna be a really good investment. These are gonna be a really good investment. And so that's what I'm doing. And I'm like, all right, babe,
Yeah.
you do you. It's awesome to have hobbies and just screw what everyone else thinks.
Yeah. Well, and I've been told like these aren't worth anything unless you get them signed. But then, some of these guys are dead, so that's not obviously going to happen. And B, it costs so much money to get them signed, and it's already tough to convince my wife to like let me spend a little bit of money here and there for wrestling toys when like I have trouble like seeing her walk in with like a new pair of shoes or something, but which are practical. Um, so to say like, hey, sweetie, I'm gonna go to this convention an hour and a half away and spend $200 on an autograph so that I can maybe get $300 back. Anyway, I'm not gonna I haven't done autographs, but I have a friend that's trying to convince me to do it, and I keep telling him no. I don't make that much money. So
Yeah, it's like it takes a lot of money to make money.
do
And
you
that's tough.
what's your like we're not going to call me out and call your husband out, and especially if your husband listens to this, I don't want him to, I need him to know that you also are vulnerable. What's like
Yes.
what's your kind of weird quirky thing?
My weird quirky thing is going to have to be Animal Crossing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I I started Animal Crossing when it came out on the GameCube.
Oh,
The
yeah.
GameCube.
Yeah, an OG.
I am an OG fan
Yeah.
of Animal Crossing. So anyways, when it came out on the Switch, I lost my mind,
Yeah.
and I've been playing religiously ever since.
And it
But yeah, that's my escape. I love it. I love it. I love decorating and
right.
talking to my villagers, and it's just a whole world I've created, and yeah, that's me being vulnerable right there.
Yeah.
You're welcome, world,
Do
and all Texas
yeah.
educators,
Do your hey, and some outside of Texas. Anyway, do
and
you
some
yeah,
outside of
yeah, just a
Texas.
handful. Do your students know that you're on Animal Crossing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think all of them do. I don't just like blast it out
Right.
for all to hear. But it's actually Cindy Couch's granddaughter that plays it. And we have yet to play together, but yeah, she'll tell me how she's doing. I'll tell her how I'm
Yeah.
doing. So yeah. Yeah, they do know. Some of
It's
them do.
and you're still young enough to appreciate this, but it is fun to see your students understand, like, because your students don't look at you like a young person. they look at you as the teacher, and like, so that makes you old. No matter how old you are, it just makes you old, right? Because you're the teacher. So that, but they still look at teachers like they're not human, right? And so,
Yes.
when they see you in public places, although I'm sure it's a little different in a smaller town, but um, when they know you do something they do, they're like, What? What do you mean? Like, I don't understand."
I hope so. My first day, I think a lot of students thought I was a student.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going for me is I'm really tall. I'm like 6 foot tall. And so that's the only thing going for me. Everyone thinks that I'm a student. And so I work every day to try to come across as an old person. Um, but Animal Crossing definitely does not work in my favor.
That's a great T-shirt. I work every day to come across as an old person. So wait, so you just again glossed over something that piqued my interest because you're 6 feet tall. I did not know that. Obviously, you're sitting down right now.
Yes.
Did that get interest from other parts of your high school? Meaning, like, did a coach come up to you and say, "Hey, how's that volleyball game of yours?" Or "How's the basketball?" Or like, I would assume because
Yeah.
tall people obviously stand out for obvious reasons, but
Yeah.
did that gain interest from other areas that you were just not really interested in?
So most small town people will tell you that to have any sort of to be worth any sort of salt or be popular
Yeah,
in town, um, you gotta play
sure.
sports. You gotta play sports. And you don't just play basketball, you run track, you do volleyball,
Right.
you cheer, you do it all. So yeah, I definitely wanted to be that, especially in middle school. So I started, playing basketball, and my brother, the artist, was also a very good athlete. Don't ask me why. I wish I had gotten that gene too, because I think that they looked at me and saw a lot of promise. And then as practices kept going, it was very clear that I, the only reason that I was semi good was because of my height.
Right.
So yeah, I think that their hopes went down the drain pretty quickly when they saw that, my I have okay coordination, but I was not some basketball star, that's for sure.
Right.
And I actually played sports up until my sophomore year. And then when I found theater, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this instead." So I went this direction.
Well, yeah, good, and as you should. And seated, you again, you don't look like you're 6 foot tall, but how would I know? So I want to get you out of here on this. You had your journey was very unique compared to a lot of Texas theater educators. Especially because a lot of teachers either go straight through teaching or go straight through college and stuff knowing I'm going to be an educator, theater, or a theater person goes through thinking I'm going to be a theater professional, and then they go to New York for a year and a half, 2 years or whatever, come back, they'd be an educator, whatever. Your path wasn't exactly that same journey. So there are probably people that are out there that have listened to this or are listening to this or whatever. I don't know how they have never mind. Anyway, uh they somehow got an advanced copy. No, they are listening to this that might be fluctuating. It's been very volatile the last few years because of COVID and because kids lost out on social growth and all this kind of stuff. So for somebody that's kind of not sure where they are going or where they're headed, you know where this is going because I could see you start thinking. Uh, what is some sort of? I like to end on advice. What is some sort of like advice or like maybe even a pep talk or something that you might have um, to kind of tell that person like just probably follow your heart. I know that sounds very cliche and whatever, but what
Yeah.
what might you have to say?
I would have to say don't be afraid to fail. Um, and that's hard to do, you know. And I would also say that I think as we get older, especially from childhood to adulthood, we lose this sense of spontaneity and like we don't have as much intuition um as adults because we try to be reasonable. And I would say that, when I think about that moment when Cindy had asked me to please apply, my intuition was so strong at that moment. It was like, "Oh, I gotta do this. I've got to at least try," you know? Um, and so I just think it would be don't be afraid to take that leap of faith. Don't be afraid to fail, because really that is a certain in life is that we're going to fail. And that's how we learn as human beings. And so that would probably be my one biggest piece of advice is listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, and take that leap. And don't be afraid to fail.
And go Buffs.
And freaking go Buffs!
Minor wisdom.